Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me well, if everything's fine. Gonna wait a couple of minutes for people to join and then we'll start the stream. Hello, hello, Evil Gemini. J'espère que ça va. Hello, Rave Rain, Marky. Hope your week is going great. Looks like it from the skiing photos. Yeah, it's doing fine. Not skiing this week though. Might be next week for the last one of the season. It's meant to be snowing a little bit this weekend. If the snow stays, I will spend the last day of the season next week. It's starting to get proper spring weather in France right now, so it might be time to swap the skis for the barbecues. But I believe we have at least a couple of more days in the season if everything goes well. Usually we ski up until mid-April. Hello Stein, hello TX6, hello Giapot, Toz, Alex, hello everyone. Thanks for joining. Weather has planned a bullish retest, don't worry fam. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we can't complain. I usually never ski in February because that's holiday season. And it's basically hasn't snowed for the entire month of February, and as soon as March arrived, we got some snow, so we cannot complain too much. It's been a great season overall. Can stay long making pasta and drinking beer soon. Thanks for yesterday, great stream. With pleasure, mate. Yeah, yesterday was a great stream in the Haven. We covered a lot, but it's good because it means that we have some chat requests which have already been done yesterday on stream for the Haven. All of these, meaning that if you guys want us to check them, we should already have a few things discussed over there. Should make the stream. Should mean that we could cover even more chat requests if you want. I'm gonna make a new list for you guys chat requests so I can see AVE first. If you guys want, we can take a look at IP, even if I believe that with the current situation, it makes any kind of analysis a little bit more complicated. Whether would appreciate your view on AVE. So AVE is on the list. We'll cover it. Like every chat request that we'll do, I will share the list of the chat requests we've done in the Telegram channel. It's just much easier. It's just much easier to spread the charts and to share them. So you will be able to find them in the Telegram channel after the stream as usual. We did OM yesterday also. Here is the list we did yesterday on stream for the Haven. We did Sol, Iena, Ton, Link, Not, Sol 2 times because there was a H4 and daily point of view. OM. So yeah, all of these have already been covered yesterday, meaning that we should be able to discuss them pretty rapidly. Can you cover Sonic? Yeah. So today's main goal for the stream, exactly like the two first ones. So thanks again for everyone joining. It's a pleasure to be able to do these public streams. It's a great way. I believe it's a better way for me to discuss things rather than just sharing charts, as much as I love doing so. So it's very interesting. Today's plan for the stream, again, like last two times. First, let's discuss Bitcoin a little bit, especially considering it's a key fight that we're seeing now with an attempt to break daily downtrend, even if it's a shy one so far. But we can discuss that. We can discuss the main scenarios I have in mind a little bit in details. And as soon as we are done with that, we can do chat requests. I don't have a particular time limit, but I guess a 2 hour stream maximum should be fine, because in any case, every time I stream more than 1 hour and a half, my brain starts to drain basically. Never forget that I'm a baguette, so speaking English is complicated for us, right? But yeah, basically, and yeah, through the stream, if you have any questions regarding whatever trading system, if you see something that I'm discussing and you want more precisions, don't hesitate to ask. And yeah, let's start the stream. Actually, did you see what's happening with Hyperliquid yet? Yeah, obviously I've seen. I was one of my long from last week, so I can't complain. I've been pretty lucky. Basically, H4 200 EMA was our last target, and the loss of H4 trend was the cut for the rest of the position. We discussed it yesterday extensively on stream. So obviously, the entire situation has absolutely destroyed the chart. I'm not gonna pretend that I have any idea how it's going to unfold. I'm not quite 100% certain why they're keeping the toxic position, neither how they want to react. It's the second time now that they get hit with this kind of attack. Last time it was on ETH. When it happened last time, I was actually surprised that anyone doing that on Hyperliquid was doing so with ETH instead of doing it with a much smaller cap shitcoin, because to me it was much easier to manipulate the coin to the other way after that, which was basically what we are seeing now. I'm not, again, I don't have the fundamental analysis of how the vault in Hyperliquid behaves and works to pretend that I know how it's gonna happen. All I know is that it was kind enough to give us H4 200 EMA last week. Before we go on to Bitcoin, this has been basically the main kind of setups that I've been chasing, particularly last week. Classic gap fill setup. We finally break H4 trend and H4 100 EMA, fill the gap to H4 200 EMA. You then pay yourself and you wait for continuation, if continuation. Unfortunately for hype, the situation happened. Usually when I see these kind of things, as much as you could see it as an opportunity considering the size of the candle, again, to me, as long as I don't have more clarity on how things are happening, and considering that I don't believe I have the knowledge behind what are the dynamics behind the Hyperliquid vaults, I'm just gonna let things unfold. Maybe I'm gonna miss a super strong reaction eventually. If that's the case, so be it. I don't believe we are in the kind of market situation and environment where I should be chasing things I'm not comfortable with. So yeah, but this was the main idea yesterday before the entire situation and Hyperliquid happened, obviously. And I believe it can be a nice template for the rest of the market, considering we are fighting with key levels right now. So yeah, let's start rapidly with Bitcoin, because obviously I believe it's the main key fight of the day. Obviously, someone asked for BNB and XRP. We can take a look at these if you want. Good day, thanks. Good day, Pierre. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, Sida Truths. With pleasure. All right, let's start. My only shitcoin FRI, please. Roman cake. Let's start with this list first, and we'll add them as soon as we cover all of these first. I'm gonna start with Bitcoin H4 because I believe it's intraday and short term. I'm gonna start with H4 and then we're gonna be able to discuss the daily perspective if you guys want. On H4, this is what I shared yesterday on both Telegram and in the Aven in more details, obviously. But yesterday, these were my main thoughts. And basically, the main idea was we have a flat H4 200 EMA disrespected. We are closing above, closing below. Therefore, the main fight is for the H4 trend plus last week highs printed during FOMC. And we've been basically stuck in the same Monday range, which is a classic, I guess. If anyone in the stream is a main system enjoyer or even XO on Twitter, I know that these guys love to print the Monday highs, Monday lows, and try to see if we spend some time and navigate within during the next few days. And it's been basically just that ever since Monday. My main thought process personally has been, and you're gonna see that it's the same thought process pretty much everywhere across the board right now. And for Bitcoin, mainly it's been must flip H4 200 EMA, hold H4 trend while it catches up with price and stock resets. And if we manage to do so, in my opinion, we have at least what's left to give us a retest of H4 300 EMA above. And if we do so, we would have filled all the gaps on H4, which basically is something we've been doing ever since we broke down from the previous range. It's mostly been chasing gap fills. Personally, it's pretty much all I done on Bitcoin, and I haven't done much. If you guys want, I can explain later why I've been less trading Bitcoin ever since the end of last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. But yeah, basically the main idea on Bitcoin is the fight for H4 trend we're seeing now. I've seen some scenarios discussed on Twitter, especially from Chase, for anyone who follows him, where he was discussing the possibility of some time spent in this region to come back and retest the highs. So basically taking both lows and highs and then just get back into the range until the rest of the week. I could see that. That could mean a deviation below H4 trend. If that's something that you're monitoring, personally, when I'm trying to gauge whether a trend is defended or not, I like to go on the time frame -1 200 EMA. In that case, that H1 200 EMA. So could dip all the way down to 85.7, sorry, for it to be a deviation. But anything lower, to me, I would consider it as a failure to flip H4 200 EMA. And unfortunately, I believe that this would set up for a longer period of consolidation while the gaps on H4 are reducing. So if you have to keep one thing in mind, in my opinion, short term for Bitcoin, is that the current fight we're seeing right now, to me at least, is pretty important. Defending basically this orange box would at least put us in the conditions to continue the drop fest we've been in since Monday, and ideally give us H4 300 EMA. And if we start losing H4 trend, flip it resistance, I would be aiming for another retest of H4 100 EMA below. So if there was a too long did not read post, to me that would be defend H4 trend, break Monday highs, give us a retest of 89, 91k region. You will see on the daily chart after that we could have a higher target than this. I'm gonna be discussing on the daily. But realistically and short term, this would be a nice upside target to have. And I believe it could be enough for some of the shitcoins retesting H4 trends right now to give a nice bounce. And at the opposite, as I said, loss of H4 trend, basically flipping it resistance again like I drew over here. And I would be mostly expecting at least chop fest, otherwise a retest of the H4 100 MA region. But overall, to me, seeing if we end up in this situation where the H4 200 EMA fails to flip support and H4 trend once again fails to give any kind of support for longer than a day or a couple of days, basically like every move we've had ever since we broke out of the range, then to me that would consolidate my main idea on daily, which is mostly chop fest, mostly higher period of consolidation. So to me, it's a crucial fight we're seeing right now. And I believe that the outcome of this fight will decide if and what and how aggressively I'm going to play the rest of the week. If H4 trend is defended on Bitcoin and we at least consolidate still in the Monday range, I believe we could be chasing some aggressive longs on shitcoins with the goal to take profits before tomorrow evening or before Friday afternoon. If we fail to do so, I would expect mostly to see some trash price action, sorry, and I would likely just get the fuck out and come back next week, or actually come back Sunday, because weekends have been fun lately. But yeah, so yeah, again, if you need to keep one thing in mind, in my opinion, it's the confluence of Monday lows plus H4 trend as a key fight right now. Obviously, this goes hand in hand with SPX, but I believe it goes without saying. Alex, Pierre, do you have a Telegram channel in addition to the AVAX Discord? Yeah, I do. Let me send the link into the chat. I mostly discuss Bitcoin over there, and more. It's basically what I used to post on Twitter, but I do it on Telegram nowadays. it's an old channel that I brought back to life. Obviously, I don't go 1/10 as the details as I go in the Haven, but I believe it's a good place to have on a daily basis. Not I try at least on a daily basis, depending if things are happening or not. But I believe it's a good place to see some things that I'm thinking about, that I'm seeing. Even if I'm trying to post back on CT, but it's such a it became a weird place. It became a weird place. All right, that's for H4. Let's keep an eye on it through the stream, whether it continues to be defended or not. Likely to be the main fight to watch. Likely to be the main fight to watch. We can move on to the main perspective I have on Bitcoin, and it's the daily perspective. For everyone that's in the Telegram channel, you probably recognize this chart. It's the one I've been posting for quite some time on CT, and on Telegram. It's a key fight to me. Okay, I'm gonna actually show this one. I believe it's a better representation of the main scenario I'm seeing today. The main thought process I have behind Bitcoin daily perspective is this wide daily EMA compression. A daily EMA compression is whenever price stuck between 100 MA, 200 MA, 300 MA, and we get a consolidation while the gap reduces. If you're looking for an example of previous kind of daily EMA compression, you can check last year trouble range. That could put us in this region right now, and basically whenever the gaps are reduced, you have an opportunity for a swing, whether it's defended or not, a flip support or not. This is basically the swing long we took last year in the Haven. That was the main thought process. Daily EMA completed. Haven't touched Bitcoin in months. It's finally time to give it a shot, especially as we have back then we had the catalyst of the election a month after that, so that was a very good confluence. And yeah, it's mostly the main thing I'm watching right now, which would give us on a daily perspective, daily 100 MA region as a must break, daily 300 MA region as a must hold. Once again, if you were here during last stream or if you are in the Telegram channel, I was basically saying that the main thing to watch early March was the daily 300 MA, whether it was on Bitcoin or SPX. It's been the pico bottom for both of them. And yeah, the main idea is until we manage to exit this daily 100 MA, daily 300 MA region, I would expect price to consolidate in between. I've added two areas that I've called highs deviation area and lows deviation area. Mostly because I'm thinking that even if we were to break through H4 daily 100 MA or daily 300 MA, I could see us deviate above and below. Obviously, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's simply imaginary lines on the chart, and we've seen it last year. We had a couple of deviations below and above, so I'm not excluding that. But in any cases, I believe that the low 70s region is a crucial place to fight for Bitcoin. It's the previous all-time high region, last year range high, which basically capped us for what that was from March to October. So yeah, 7 to 8 months. Obviously, it's the place you want to see defended, and again, I would assume that the low 90s region is one that everyone's watching. So I don't think that it's a very original analysis. I think it's the most simplest one you can have. And personally, I still have some of that spot about last October. I would probably cut it all if/when we were back inside last year range. But basically, I would be willing to compound on this position if/when we finally get a daily EMA compression to work with. So basically a 1-1 of last year main focus on Bitcoin. So that gives you the main perspective I have. On H4, as I said, it's mostly a fight for the H4 trend and H4 200 MA region. Defend it. At least we're good to consolidate above. Lose it. To me, it's a failed daily trend reclaim, and I will expect chop vests in that scenario. Upside short-term target will be H4 300 MA at 89.590. Downside target will be H4 100 MA, and it's basically the same story but on the daily perspective. I've got a few questions yesterday regarding the attempt to break the daily trend we have right now. And as I said before the stream, at the beginning of the stream when we discussed H4 trends, I said that when I wanted to see if a trend could break or could be reclaimed, I usually go and check the time frame -1 200 EMA. In that case, because we're on daily, that would give us H4 200 EMA. That's why I'm saying it's a key fight also. If we were to fail to flip the daily trends, again, something that you probably have seen me post plenty of times if you've been watching my streams or if you've been in the Haven or on City. To me, a trend that fails to be reclaimed, whether it's H1, H4 daily, so basically a close above, a close below, to me it's enough to consider that there is no trend to work with and we should expect chop fest mostly. Yeah, I can see hype. Bouncing a bit. Yeah, not a bit actually. It's bouncing a lot. As I said at the beginning of the stream, probably something to work with off of this entire situation. But personally, because I was streaming and because I don't have the entire understanding of the entire Vault situation, I'm letting things unfold. If there is something to trade after that, I will be happy to take it. But I'm fine. I'm fine missing on this opportunity. It's a turbo bounce, obviously. It's a turbo bounce. I haven't seen the news, but I'm gonna check. I would assume that they finally solved the situation. Yeah, Hyperliquid delist jelly after Binance and OK. Don't tell me that Binance and OKX just listed jelly features on their platform. That's beautiful. It's painful for Hyperliquid, obviously, but it's so funny. It's so funny. I wonder who's behind this thing on Hyperliquid. I wonder. Binance are usually pretty nice to their competitors. Ask Sam. But anyway, okay, interesting. I'm personally gonna let all of that unfold, and after the stream or later in the evening, depending on how it's developing, I will decide if I decide to trade this or not. But yeah, pretty fucked up situation. Not surprised one bit. I was actually expecting a tweet from Binance saying that they were listing jelly futures, and I can't believe they actually did it. It's pretty funny. It's also funny that it had to happen on something called jelly like this. But anyway, okay, one last repeat for everyone before we move on to the chat requests. Key fight on Bitcoin H4 situation, H4 200 EMA, H4 trends. Not only it's a key fight short term because I believe it's what differentiates a chop vest continuation into potentially H4 300 EMA above to a, at best, I would say chop vests lower, and because I believe it plays a big role whether we can flip the daily trend support or not, and therefore if we can open the door to a gap fill above the same way we got a gap fill below to daily 300 MA. Again, doesn't have to happen, but yeah, it could be a good fight. It's something I discussed yesterday with members. I was saying that if you don't want to position yourself on these retests right now, or if you want to have another confirmation that we could fill the gap to daily 100 MA, I believe that managing to break Monday highs could be a great confirmation. But I also believe that, and it's mostly a BTC SPX 500, so BTC 500 situation. On the top right corner, you basically have the main focuses you should have short term to decide whether you want to actively trade the market to the upside or not. So considering we still have at least 1 more hour to stream together, I believe we will see how all of that unfolds. Fatcoin, yeah, okay. I got a nice win earlier on Fatcoin. We can discuss. Okay, so that's the main chart request to discuss for now. I'm putting hype in pause for now, considering the situation, and we'll see how it develops, and if we decide to cover it or not after that. I believe that if you decide to play hype short term, it's mostly it should mostly be a fundamental play or a news driven play, but technically speaking, I don't believe you have much work to with. You don't have much to work with considering the situation. Settle the market. Yeah, looks like Hyperliquid added 9 million to the vault. May you check Kato? Yeah, it's been a while. I didn't check Kato. Are people still yapping? Are people still farming? Those things? Oh, but they actually listed 10 minutes ago. Okay, it's very funny. It's very funny. I picked the wrong time to be live, to be honest, because I believe there is a lot of fuckery to work with right now. Chaos market is one of my favorite markets. All right, let's start with. Sorry, quick question. Just wanted to confirm that I understand correctly. The system says that claim retrain we go to time frame -1 on the 200 GMA if we bounce off. Is that correct? It's not a perfect rule in the sense that you're gonna have fake outs and deviations as always. But personally, when I'm riding a trend, when I'm looking to understand whether it's, imagine I'm riding an uptrend, a daily trend. Let's speak Bitcoin daily, for example. Let's imagine you're riding that daily uptrend, and we start spending some time below. I believe we had some great example last year, but let's stick to this one. Oops. And I want to know if that's a break or if it's a deviation, basically. So I want to know if it's enough for me to decide to get out or not. And in addition to just closing below the trend, what I usually like to check is whether the 200 EMA is defended. So in that situation, I would have went to the H4, see if H4 was lost or not. We could see that H4 200 EMA was starting to break. To me, it was enough to consider that the daily trend was over. And if we actually look back, I believe it triggered a take profit on the long. The fact that we lost H4 200 EMA. And after that, we followed the mostly chop fest. So right now on H4 on daily, we want to know if the daily downtrend can be broken. So one intraday indicator you can have is the fight with H4 200 EMA and whether it's flipping support or not. As you can see, Marky, right now it's pretty indecisive. We're basically closing above, closing below, mostly because we have a flat H4 200 EMA. So makes sense that it's less respected. And that's why the current fight we're seeing is key in the fight to reclaim daily trend or not. Again, I'm not saying it's a perfect rule. I'm not saying it's ideal, but over time, it's something that I like to check when I'm riding trends or whether I'm deciding, I want to decide if a trend is reclaimed. This example is a pretty shitty one, obviously, because it's pretty indecisive. That's why I'm saying it's not a perfect rule. But considering we have the confluence with last week highs, and overall an interesting H4 level, as you can see, if we flip that to the left, overall it's been an important level of fight, support, resistance, breakdown, resistance. So it's an interesting level to work with. I believe it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on, Marky, if you're into those things, and maybe over time you will build your own indicators and your own rules. But usually that's something I like to check. Okay, let's start with ENA. Because ENA is an interesting one right now. It's one that has some potential. I'm gonna discuss it in all the details that I shared yesterday in the event. So I'm not saying that this would be the entire possibility of the setup to unfold, but this is a textbook potential gap fill play. In a scenario where the market ends up being strong and Bitcoin itself manages to flip daily downtrends, And it's usually the kind of setups I'm interesting to chase in those kind of environments. What I mean by those kind of environments is post strong trends and reversal of daily trends, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. Uh, I usually really like to position myself at the end of trends and capture moves to 100 MA and 200 MA. So yeah, that could be a textbook gap fill setup. But I'm gonna say the same warnings that I said yesterday during my stream. Is that if I was to take something like this, I believe I would consider a retest of the target one region as already a more than good enough trade. The gaps are gigantic. The gaps are just, yeah, they are. We're talking about a 60% gap. I believe that for something like this to happen on ENA, we would need Bitcoin to do something quite nice on itself and or some pretty important catalyst for ENA. One could say that the recent stablecoin engulfment, the recent stablecoin enjoyers could see something in ENA. Obviously, I have no idea. I'm just a dumb trader. But again, if that was to be the setup in itself, without even aiming for all the gap fills, to me that would already be a very good trade to capture. We're talking about a 3-hour trade on something that's fairly liquid. To me, that would already be a good setup. ENA unlocks in 1st of April, then it gives it a few more days to pump the coin before the unlocks, right? But this could be a setup. So if I was to take something like this, I would pay myself aggressively into the target one region. I said 1/3 to 1/2, but I believe you could chase more. Okay, talking about 14% supply, so that's not something to joke with. But could be enough of a good reason for the team to try and pump in their coin, and maybe that can explain the recent relative strength. But even if that doesn't end up to be the play on ENA, I believe that if you're willing to swing long in the market right now, personally, I believe that it's a bit of a tricky situation, obviously, because personally, my main point of view is Bitcoin mostly chop fest in a daily EMA region. Do I believe that shitcoins can pull a 60%, especially big coins, while Bitcoin is stuck in this region? I don't know. But if you are interested in looking for some setups on higher time frames, I believe this should be the template you should be looking for. Outside of the setup in itself for ENA, forget that it's ENA. I believe that this is the kind of template you should be looking for. Meaning, condition for you to be looking for this, in my opinion, is Bitcoin above daily downtrend, or at least Bitcoin strength / Bitcoin at least consolidating and not cheating the bed, obviously. But these two conditions are probably the two more important. Your shitcoin, whether it's ENA or another, daily above daily downtrend, and therefore H4 above H4 200 EMA, as we discussed with Marky a couple of minutes ago. And then this is the template. Entry, ideally on a retest of daily trend as close as possible. Invalidation on incapacity to flip the daily trend. If the daily trend is not flipped support, at least you have a very rapid invalidation, and it doesn't necessarily means that it's gonna die into new lows. But to me, if after such a strong daily downtrend, which has been the same one since $1, if it fails to show strength and flip its support, at very least, the best I would be expecting would be probably more of that, more of what we've already got for quite some time now, with daily trend in the middle and disrespected like this. And obviously, it's not something I'm very interested to trade. So that's why the invalidation is incapacity to flip daily trend. And intraday signal, as I discussed already through the stream, could be whether it defends H4 200 EMA. And yeah, as I said, in which case we would have a daily trend disrespected and longer period of drop fest. But what I really like about these kind of setups is that, first of all, we have a clean daily trend to work with, considering it's been very well defended all the way since the top, basically. Because it means that you have an interesting invalidation, and and the gaps above are gigantic, meaning that the upside you can eventually aim for are really big. I'm trying to think of examples where we don't have that much big gaps to the upside. I don't know if I have good example in my watch lists. I guess ADA could be an example. It's not the same structure, but for example, if I was to long a ADA setup, my main target would be daily 100 MA. It's less interesting than eventually the kind of gap that ENA can deliver. Again, I want to insist that if I was to take something like this, I would be more than happy to at least get target 1. If it was to go higher and fill some gaps, that would be bonus. And I would probably be looking for compoundings above this region, ideally on a daily trend defended. But my main target would be this region more than the gap fills in themselves. And I would, for example, expect daily 100 MA to rapidly catch down to price. Considering how steep it is descending, I believe, for example, that daily 100 MA could be in this region by the end of the week. But again, one of the reasons I spent a lot of time yesterday discussing ENA was mostly that to me, it's a good example of things that I would be willing to chase. And not only on the daily. If a setup looks like this on H4, I would be very interesting to chase it. And one of the main arguments, obviously, is the fact that it has wide gaps above to chase. It's the exact same thought process than when I'm looking for shorts after strong daily downtrends. The bigger the gaps to the downside, the more interested I am. So yeah, this is my main point of view of ENA. So end target in a absolutely crazy and fantastic world would be daily 100 MA. And as you can see, that's why I said wherever it is, because they are going to catch down with price as price spend time consolidating, meaning that as it goes, the end potential target is gonna get lower. And that's why if you're trading ENA and you get the opportunity to get a retest of the 0.4748, especially if we have big unlocks coming, like Gonzalo said in the chat, in my opinion, you take the opportunity and at least and I believe that taking alpha off over there would be great. Again, I would say that considering it's a liquid coin and you can likely get some size without needing any kind of leverage to meet your risk, I believe it's an interesting setup to chase. I am not in a position yet. I think I'm gonna let it develop a little bit on the daily, and depending on what Bitcoin does, I will decide how I'm triggering it. On H4, what I would really like to see would be H4 trend catching up over here with a nice confluence and compression, which is basically what we have on Bitcoin right now. But yeah, this is the main thoughts when it comes to ENA. So again, 1, I'm not in yet. 2, I'm not saying it goes to daily 100 MA and to 0.67. This could be the main setup to have. But to me, it's an interesting template to work with, and it would be the kind of setup I would be willing to chase on the upside. So one last time, main reasoning: attempt to break daily downtrend for the first time in ages. Wide gaps above to chase, and very clean target 1 to have. Meaning that this first thing means that I should have a clean invalidation that I know I'm going to respect. And this means that I should have a good target that I know I'm going to respect. If I know that I have an exit strategy that I can stick to, it's likely a setup that I have less chances to fuck the execution, basically. So as a mid-curve trader, it's the kind of setup I'm trying to play with. Okay, so that's our case for ENA. Let's discuss. I actually got some questions. When you are trading the Monday range, I do not trade the Monday range. I mentioned it because maybe some of you guys are familiar with main game, but I'm personally not trading Monday range. I just highlighted it in my chart yesterday on stream because I know that some members in the Haven are using main system and they tend to like the Monday range, but I'm personally not trading it. I'm not trading something like this right now. It's there. I have absolutely zero business to do in this kind of intraday swings personally. So sorry, Gonzalo, I cannot help you with that. Man, it's so good to hear your voice again. I really got to renew my subscription to the Aven. That will be a pleasure to have you back. It's pretty uncommon for people on City to say they're happy to hear my broken French accent, but I guess it's nice to hear sometime. Back to Marky point, I used the loss of trends on HTF as target one. Target one close, TP1 close when 30, yeah, 100%. So what Alex is saying in the chat is that he's basically when he's riding a trend, his exit is on the first break of the trend basically, and 100% it's something that I very often do. And maybe actually I worked on some new article last week for the Aven, which are in the WOP section. And in one of the article I was discussing the trend following approach, and in that context I believe this was the chart that I shared. I used the OM example because we had a lot of fun trading OM last year, at the end of last year. Or was it the beginning of the year? I can't even remember. But yeah, as you can see, Alex, and as you can see, Marky, on the bottom right, this is the template of an ideal trend following setup for me. What I want to see and how I usually position myself. As you can see, target one local highs or local lows if it's in a downtrend, and target two as high as the trend goes. Basically exit as soon as we start to see the trend breaking. And therefore, if you start seeing 200 EMA weakening on the time frame -1. GM, can you check AVAX? Yeah, we can check AVAX, especially considering I believe it's been moving a little bit lately. So that could be interesting. But yeah, Alex, it's something I very often do. And actually, it's one of the reasoning also. What you just said is basically what triggered this target fall exit on the swing last year on Bitcoin. And yeah, the justification was first break of the daily trend ever since we positioned ourselves, with H4 200 EMA not being respected anymore, and therefore get the fuck out for now. Not fully, because this is the kind of swing I was willing to hold for longer. But if it was any kind of other position, this is a nice exit. Okay, next one. Let's do OM, because I believe I've already covered it nicely also. It was not on this, it was on the OKX. Someone discussed a scalp yesterday, told him it was probably a shit idea. Squared Barbarian, hello mate. Hello mate, Squared Barbarian, nice to see you. Pierre, on Bitcoin, since we lost H4 13 EMA, isn't that already an indicator of weakness in flipping downward trends? Here, higher probability that H4 200 EMA will not hold. So, two things about that before we move on to the next chart requests. To me, H4 200 EMA right now is a little bit. That earlier I said that it was not the best example of discussion whether we should be focused on H4 200 EMA most particularly because it was fully flat. If you remember some of our discussion, Squad Barbarian, the flatter the moving average is, the less relevant it is to me. The more it means that on this period it shows no trend basically, and it has more chances of being disrespected. We can see it now with the fact that we're basically hanging around it, and that's why on the analysis on H4 it's more of the fight with yesterday's lows and H4 trend more than H4 200 EMA itself, which is important to me. If H4 200 EMA was ascending while we were retesting it, for example, I would give it more weight than here right now, than it is short term. I'm trying to find example. You see H4 200 EMA flat, absolutely disrespected. That was the justification to actually take some profits on the daily in December. And yeah, it's been a while we haven't got a very clean H4 200 EMA. So again, to me, it's Confluence, but it's not necessarily the most relevant, as you just said. Now, you already said that we lost H4 13 EMA, and it's true that for me, one of the signal of a strong trend is where the 13 EMA is defended. However, I want to say something. To me, again, this is not looking like, how can I say that? We don't have much of a H4 trend to work with in any case. I'm mostly considering this as the first strong test of the H4 trend. Because again, we moved off of a Sunday move up until right before New York Monday Open, and ever since any kind of momentum stopped. So I don't believe we have much of a H4 trend to work with actually. It's to me, it's more of the confluence of all of that makes sense. So does the loss of H4 13 EMA right now can be considered as a first signal of weakness? To me, the fact that we are chopping that way is already a potential sign of weakness, more than the 13 EMA itself. Now, with that being said, we'll see how we close in 12 minutes. And that's why when I discussed Bitcoin earlier, I said that one of the two focuses you could have to decide whether we have bigger chances of seeing H4 100 MA or H4 13 300 MA would be the local highs and lows we printed on Monday, even if that's not necessarily something I'm using. It could be any other day. This kind of price action has established a lower time frame range to work with, and we've been chopping around it ever since, so it's probably a more interesting focus to have. Pierre, do you pay any attention to level like quarterly open, monthly open, weekly open? Weekly open, I like to have it on my daily charts often, but do I consider it as something actionable for me? No. I like to have it on the chart. I would say it's more of a habit than anything more important. Mostly because, again, it's not because I'm seeing weekly open being retested that it's going to be enough for me to justify taking a position. So it's on my chart. I believe it's interesting to have it on the chart, but it's not enough for me to justify anything more than that. All right, and we can see a fight for Bitcoin on the short term. So keep an eye on it as we move on to the next chart requests. Because I'm yapping a lot and we still have a lot of chart requests to do. Pierre, do you think that the first retest and defense of 200 GMA is usually stronger than the second retest? I don't have a specific rule about that. I know that it's something people often pay attention to, whether it's a moving average or whether it's an horizontal level or diagonal, and basically saying that it's been retested 4 times, so the 5th time it's gonna break. I don't have any data that backs this out. So again, if that's not something that is actionable for me, I try not to pay attention to it. I pay more attention whether it's in a steep descent, if it's descending, ascending, or flat. And to me, the steeper it is, the more it has chances to be respected. The flatter it is, the less chances it has to be respected. It's the simplest rule I can think of. All right, let's speedrun the chat requests. I got a question about OM, and last week I got a question. Someone asked me if I was interested in playing that EMA compression. As you can see, all gaps reduced. On paper, if we listen to what I said on Bitcoin and the long I took last year on Bitcoin, we could be interested to take this. But my answer was that I already tried to take a long like this last year on OM when we got a similar compression, and I got absolutely bullied. It basically failed to hold the compression. Everything went flat. I got wicked out, and then it sent. So I managed to ride it after that, but yeah, I got bullied. And my main answer when someone asked me if I was interested to take this compression, I said that considering OM, it's basically still written on the chart, but considering OM tends to be a pretty trappy coin whenever it's not trending. Whenever it's not in a clean daily uptrend, it tends to be very choppy. And I was not particularly expecting to see any kind of constructive price action on there. So my main conclusion was let it develop, wait for it to print the first leg, set some alerts above and below, and if / when it prints its first leg to the upside, we're gonna be chasing the kind of setups we chased last year, and we will be more than happy to trade this kind of volatility. But I don't see much reasons to be focused on the price action right now, which is perfectly flat. And if we move on to the daily, it's actually a good example of what I said earlier for Bitcoin or ENA. Earlier on the stream, I said that whenever we see a daily trend that's not respected, so it's not the case, yes, on Bitcoin, we don't know. But in the case where we could see Bitcoin failure to flip daily trend, I said earlier that it would be a signal for me to expect chop fest mostly, and to expect daily trend to be flat in the middle and price action to be around above and around it. And I said that that's why it was the invalidation on ENA also. And that at first break of daily trend, I would mostly expect this kind of price action to unfold for some more time. Well, you can use OM daily trend as an example. As you can see, strong daily uptrend starts to break for the first time and then try to reclaim it, lost it again. To me, this shows that we have a daily trend disrespected, and it's enough of an argument for me to expect chop fest mostly on this time frame until we have more to work with. So my main conclusion on OM is that I believe eventually I could be taking something like this over here, but short term I would much rather let it develop, wait for a daily trend to be cleaner to work with, or at least for a first leg to send, and then I would be interested to trade it. But for now, I'm setting some alerts above local highs we printed over here, as you can see on the right. I'm gonna set some alerts to the downside, and if / when it finally starts printing a new H4 trend, I will be riding it just like last year. But until then, I believe it's a no-go. So that's basically what I wrote on the top right of the charts. Okay, next one, SUSDT. Do we have more? I don't believe we have more history than this to work with, right? Because it's a new coin. Okay, it has more on CoinEx. Anyone knows if there is more price action somewhere for this trash from Andre again? Okay, let's use the CoinEx chart. Yes, yeah, it's Phantom. It's Andre doing Andre things. Let's check lower time frame. Jelly delisted from Hyperliquid. It's a bit late, right? They will fight for H4 100 MA despite the fuckery. I'm unlikely to touch. Hyperliquid short term anyway. As I said during the stream, I missed probably the big part of the volatility in both directions. I would not be surprised if it consolidates in the 14-15 region. So I believe it some possible good opportunities for a lot of people, but in my system, in my way of trading, it's if I'm late to the initial impulse, I should probably just not touch it, basically. So for Sonic, it's an Andre scam, so we can always expect it to do some numbers. I believe I would stick to the daily time frame, in which case, what I usually do when I'm seeing a chart like this, I map out the main moving averages situation. So we have the daily 100 MA over here, green dotted one. Above what we can see in purple, it's daily 200 MA before it appears on the charts, but it's always interesting to have it somewhere. And below we have the daily trend over here. That has not been retested yet, and that is in confluence with an interesting horizontal level. Yeah, I sorted it out. Yeah. Good for them. Again, I'm personally not going to be trading. because I just explained it. I missed most of the move in both direction, and I believe that even if the situation is sorted, the most interesting part is behind us on the setup, in my opinion. And I will happily be looking for new hype setups when I have more to work with on the chart. But for now, I don't have much to work with over there. So for Sonic, the main things I can see on this chart, and I believe it's probably the main analysis for everyone. You have in this region confluence of daily trends and key horizontal level. So it's probably a level you want to see defended if it's retested. And daily 100 MA above must break. And daily 200 MA, which will be an end target if you're longing this. So a setup, in my opinion, could be something like this. Probably can have a tighter invalidation than that because H4 100 MA would eventually catch up. And it will be the same thought process that I said for NI earlier. It's so could see something like this. Come for the retest, defend it, give target 1. If it's not broken, then so be it. Exit. If it breaks, target 2. And if this fails, I believe I would mostly expect to see this kind of price action for quite some time. Again, to me, it would not necessarily mean that I would expect it to die, but that would be enough for me to consider that it's not going to be trending and I don't want to be in a position. So if you guys want, I can write down the entire setup, the entire potential setup. All right. Enough for Sonic. My days of trading Andre coins are behind me, personally. Okay, next one, Fatcoin. I had a nice small scalp taken earlier today. We got yesterday actually. We got extremely lucky on the target one. I would not. I was about to say I might be interested to take this setup a second time, but I feel like I've already been pushing my luck pretty far with Fatcoin, so I'm probably not going to do so. Okay, I'm gonna remove some of the drawings to clean things up for you guys. I should have used Fatcoin example earlier for the ENA situation. As you can see, earlier for ENA, if you remember, I said that what was interesting in the setup from ENA was the first attempt to break daily downtrend in ages, plus the fact that the gaps were very big above. If you remember correctly, this was the main reasoning. The main reasoning, attempt to break daily downtrend, wide gaps above. Well, on Fatcoin, it's exactly what happened. Strong daily downtrend. That was the same one since 1.2, 1.5, 1.4, all the way down to 0.36. Closed the daily above, retested the daily trend, flipped its support, filled the gap to daily 200 EMA. I guess therefore my main focus for Fatcoin next trade would be, ideally what I would like to see from Fatcoin obviously would be daily trend defended, some consolidation in this region while the daily trend catches up with price. But basically, okay, my main conclusion on Fatcoin short term, main thought on Fatcoin short term is that if I'm willing to take any trade from here, it would be based off of a D1 trend retest. As much as I've been, I just showed a scalp on H1 15 minutes, but the more it develops that way, the more I believe that it's probably safer for me to only focus on daily trend retests. So yeah, ideally some consolidation and then a potential gap fill to daily 100 EMA. What kind of market condition would we need to see this happening? I believe we will need to see some strong kind of price action. However, I believe that what I would like to try capturing on Fatcoin next would be either a move to daily 100 EMA, either a complete retrace to the 0.30-35 region. And the trigger would probably be, so I'm gonna add more details to that. Next trade I'd like to chase. Unfortunately, I wish I had some more interesting short-term actionable play to discuss for Fatcoin right now, but I believe it's generally the main thought process I have. I think it already pumped quite nicely. It gave daily 200 EMA. It was probably the best shitcoin to trade off of the recent Bitcoin strength. It was fantastic to scalp on lower time frames because, as you can see, it defended the same H1 trend from 0.36 up to 0.55, so that's pretty fantastic. But yeah, personally, I'm gonna let it develop a little bit. I believe I will know very shortly if I'm wrong waiting for daily trend retests, depending on how it defends or not H4 trend. If it continues to defend H4 trend, I might change my opinion and I might decide to actively trade H4. But short term, I would prefer to let it develop a little bit on the daily and try to chase a setup later. Usually when I don't see a setup I can take immediately on a chart like this, I like to still have an idea of the main things that would be interesting to trade and what would be the trigger. And as I said, to the upside, I would love to capture a move back to daily 100 EMA, or to the downside, a retest of the breakout level from the daily downtrends. And the trigger would be a retest of the daily trend and whether it's defended or not. So I'm probably gonna sit on my hands a little bit and wait for daily trend to be retested. I'm gonna add some alerts and we'll see how it develops. Pierre, do you aim for a certain risk reward before you're willing to take a trade? If so, do you calculate it using TP1? I would say I have a fairly flexible risk reward in the sense that, again, we can use the ENA example if you want. Because usually I'm trying to aim for gap fills when I'm especially recently, a vast majority of the trades I took were based off of gap fill setups. But because we are talking about moving averages by definition, having them as a target means that you're gonna have your risk reward is going to diminish over the time as it takes time to fill the gaps. So that's why I said earlier that I would be perfectly fine to only get target one, and why I would be basing my risk off of this setup alone. And whatever is above is bonus, I believe is the word I used earlier. Now, do I aim for a particular risk reward? I don't say I can't say I have a strict rule on that, but I would also say it's pretty uncommon for me to aim for anything that's lower than 2.53 R trades. Again, probably depends on market conditions and a lot of things, but most often than not, one of the conditions I want to take a setup, one of the reasoning is having wide gaps to chase, and most often than not, this comes with a pretty important risk reward. But again, to answer the rest of your question, yes, I tend to calculate based on the first target, especially in these kind of extreme examples where the gaps are very big. And I believe it's also something I said earlier when we discussed ENA. I said, if that's the only thing it would give, that would remain a 3-hour trade, and it's more than good and more than enough, especially in these market conditions. H4 closed on Bitcoin. Let's take a look how it closed. I would say it closed right at H4 trend to be original. Yeah. So statu quo, no changes, but gonna have to find some strength pretty rapidly. And SPX is on the similar situation, retesting H4 trend, pretty cheeky. This is looking more and more like I'm done with my trading week after the stream, to be honest. And low time frame wise, Fatcoin lost EMA 32 on H1 and H4. Yeah. It's one of the justification. I said that I was, as much as I've been enjoying scalping and trading Fatcoin lately, it's showing more and more signs on lower time frame that I want to take a step back and let it develop a little bit more. But yeah, we just discussed it. All right, let's speed run things a little bit. AVE is actually a good example. I'm gonna wait for the daily perspective, but first I want to show something to you guys. This is a setup. I showed earlier the hype setup and said that it was the main things I was looking for last week. I want to show an example that I fumbled, and not only a win like the hype I shared earlier. This was the exact same thought process than for the hype long from last week. And as I told you, last week I was mostly aiming for gap fills on H4. And the main idea was that I could see Bitcoin retest H4 200 EMA, and I was expecting shitcoins to fill their gaps also. Many of them did, like hype, as we discussed earlier. Some did not, like AVE that we're gonna discuss. But that was one of the main reasons I was willing to long AVE last week. And I ended up, during my stream last Thursday, exiting the position in advance. The justification when I decided to cut it was more like this, was that I knew that I was about to leave for the rest of the week, sorry. And I couldn't be bothered managing things. And I believe it was at the moment where Bitcoin was retesting 84, 85, something like this. I believe so. I'm not 100%. But yeah, was a mistake to close it in the end, because as you can see, even if it did not went all the way up to target 4, at least it would have given me my target 1, which was H4 100 MA. I would have got this target, and I could have decided to ride it a little bit longer. So was a good idea, badly executed, which I believe is probably 95% of the trades people take, me included. Trade that fails, I mean. So yeah, I just wanted to show you it to guys, because I believe it's as important to show it than the winning one. And it was a similar situation on TAO, as you can see. However, in that particular example, we ended up cutting it in this region before I left. Exact same reasoning than for AVE. This one, I have no regrets, because I would have been stopped out otherwise. So yeah, I still believe there was a trade to take, especially on the retest over here on Sunday evening, sorry. But yeah, these were the three longs that I tried to take last week in the scalp section before leaving. We had a hype, as you can see, as a AVE and TIO that I ended up closing this now, as I just told you. So yeah, not particularly big losses, but just to show that happens sometimes. Shit happens. With that being said, AVE, it's been one of our great long from last year. That was a fantastic swing to have all the way up to target 4 in the 400 region. I have not been touching it much ever since. And I've been thinking about trying to long it if /when it breaks daily downtrend, as you can see right now. It's being denied by it, but if it was to break, would I be interested to long it? It could be an interesting setup where we could aim for a daily 100 MA retest. It's a fairly descending daily 100 MA, so it would be a good target. But at the same time, daily 200 MA is really not too far away from it. And it's a pretty big resistance, as you can see, acted 2 times as a strong resistance ever since it got lost. So I'm not 100% how I want to approach AVE. And I mean, there could actually be an argument to be shorting these right now. With an invalidation on the break of daily trend. But you could have an argument. Even if you don't short it, let's just stick it to the analysis. Let's just stick to the analysis. To me, the analysis on AVE is that I believe it's a no-go as long as it's below daily downtrend. It's been the exact same daily downtrend. It has not broken once since 315. To me, it's enough of a good justification to continue respecting it. Worst case scenario, it starts pumping without you a little bit. And so what? You miss the initial impulse. Nobody cares. You chase along inside a new daily trend. But my main thought process personally on AVE short term is that daily downtrend has been the same one ever since 230. Daily downtrend, same one since plus 30. May as well wait for it to break before considering touching grain button. And as I said, you could even have a good argument to actually short it. But I also think that we probably missed the opportunity to do so. I believe it was a good short at 190. It's a little bit less now. And we can see it on H4 structure. Yeah, I would just not trade that. That's my main analysis. I would just let it develop, set some alerts above the daily trends, and wait for the alerts to trigger, and not touch it ever since. That's genuinely my main analysis. So I'm gonna write it down. Main thoughts. No, I'm not interested in shorting it. Not interested in longing sub D1 trends. Setting alerts, D1 trends, and waiting. No need to force anything. Can't ski, beer, steak, and mana trades in it. Oh, you can. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. My best weeks of trading so far this year have been January and the first week of March, and it's the moment I've been the most skiing. So and actually probably the most drinking beers also. But yeah, overall, probably better not to mix all of those things. All right, on Okay, you should be. Sorry, mic broke for a couple of minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna shut this off before I want to short it and end up with a subpar position. Too much English, sir. Yeah, my mic decided to go on strike, thinking that I turned to the enemy. Understandable, to be honest. So far, what sucks the most with this week is that it's another week where most of the upside volatility has been concentrated in 24 hours, followed so far by just absolute chop fest and trash price action. Sunday price action, weekday price action. Cool, cool, cool. Thank you, Bitcoin. Sometimes it is or it is. Okay. Quick look at SPX, but I think we already watched it earlier. Yeah, okay. Same kind of trash. Have we got any kind of news today from Orange Man? This is such a crazy tweet. Hyperliquid delists Jelly after Volt squeeze in 30 million. 13 million. Jesus. Trump prepares auto tariff announcement as soon as Wednesday, before coming back to his words 24 hours later. When will the market stop giving two fucks about what he says? I don't know, but it's gonna come eventually. AVAX. I think we discussed it yesterday on stream. Oh yeah, I remember. This reminds me of Ton a little bit. It was probably on the cakes. Okay. This is what I shared for Ton yesterday on stream. As you can see, pretty much the same. It's not perfectly the same structure, but we have a similar idea. Wide gaps, attempt to break the lead on trend for the first time in ages. And AVAX is in a potential similar situation. The shitty part is that we're talking about AVAX, which has been pretty cooked this entire cycle. It hasn't been the most exciting things. Yeah, it never saw. Okay, it did not even manage to break through the March highs during the Trump mania. I have not been trading AVAX much ever since the end of the 2021 cycle, to be honest. Was one of my 1 to 3 digits trade, for those who remember the good old days. And I have not been watching it much ever since, but okay, with that being said, if you listen to everything I discussed through the stream, I believe you should have an idea of the potential setups we could have over here and what could be the invalidation, what could be the targets. Obviously, what we want to see from now for AVAX is the daily trend that's been the same one since, if we forget these small deviations, it's been the same daily downtrend since $45. So that's probably a 50% daily downtrend. Not too bad. So obviously, if you're expecting any kind of trendy price action short term from AVAX, you want to see daily downtrend flip support. If daily downtrend is not defended, if it's defended, expect some upside. If it's not defended, again, I discussed it many times during the stream. Trend not defended, whether it's H1, H4 daily, means that mostly you should expect chop vest. And again, I will show the daily of OM as an example. Daily trend flat not respected. Fuck it. So if you're thinking about longing AVAX, this should be your invalidation on the daily perspective. And I believe that, for example, a daily close back below 20 is probably enough to invalidate a short-term long ID, in my opinion. Close daily below equals failure to flip daily trend and get the fuck out for now. What would be our targets? Well, obviously, our targets would probably be moving averages, the end target at least. I think we could expect daily 100 MA to catch down rapidly with price, much more than daily 300 MA and daily 200 MA. And I believe eventually in the next few days, it could get into the confluence of this region. So I believe these could be our end targets. And it would already be a fantastic gap fill for AVAX to catch. And I believe this would make a nice target one that you would want to front run. Therefore, the setup. So why could it be an interesting setup? One, because it's the first attempt to break daily downtrend in ages, and two, because it has wide gaps above to chase. Again, I'm just applying the same shit all over again with the same IDs, and I'm just sticking to the system basically. So I'm not gonna repeat it again, but yeah. So a setup could be like something like this. I believe that could be an interesting setup. All right. I actually think I would be even more interested to short that, to be honest. Yeah, probably. I'm gonna set some alerts right at daily trends and in this region if/when, and I would probably be shorting this if/when we get the opportunity to do so. All right, no question for AVAX. Moving on to the next one. IP. I have not been trading this much, and I should have. It's been one of the strong coin lately. I know Krian has been trading this one quite a lot. Am I in regular? Yeah. Once again, strong H4 trend starts to break, followed by chop fest, classic. Do we have anything we can work with? Not so much. I don't see much I can trade looking at these charts. If there is a setup, it's not obvious to me at least. I guess this is an interesting horizontal level. Yeah. I don't see a clear setup over here. Maybe I could go for some knife catching over here and take this setup, but that would go a little bit against my system. Not that there is nothing to trade there, but I would say it's not in either of the main categories of setup I usually take. I don't have a trend to work with, not necessarily a gap fill setup. So if I was taking this, I would probably force things. So maybe the focus should be on the daily instead. Wait for the daily trend to catch up, tighten, and then take a setup over here with an invalidation below daily trend. That could be more doable, I guess. Okay, sorry for anyone who asked for IP. I don't have a strong opinion short term. Not seeing any particular setup to take short term. So let's set some alerts in the daily trend region. Not quite sure who asked for IP earlier. I don't know if you're still around, but sorry if that's the case. Okay. Kato. Setup exited too soon. I believe I did an interesting fractal for this one somewhere. I remember charting this during, I believe it was during our last public stream together. Yeah, I asked for IP. Sorry, Rave Rain. Sorry, Rave Rain. I just don't see it. I think, you know what, I'm actually going to add IP to the watch list because, as I said, it's probably something I should have been trading considering it's been moving nicely. Actually, you know what? Okay, better that way. Is my small Sol long still opened? Barely alive, but it's fighting. It's in Bitcoin ends. It's interesting though. We are seeing SPX relative weakness and Bitcoin not shitting the bed particularly. I'm not saying that we are decorrelating or whatever. Don't twist my words, but worth keeping an eye on. Maybe it can be some sort of a short-term opium. Yeah, let's not open the if BTC chart. Why am I doing this to myself? For anyone that doesn't want to get bullied by if BTC, by the way, you have a very simple trick if you want. Do not touch it as long as it's below daily downtrend. That's it. Voila, that was the cheat code. Okay, Kato. I need to remove the drawings, I believe. I already did it. There is not much to discuss, isn't it? It's pretty much flat. I'm actually surprised this has not died more than this, to be honest, considering social fee kind of things. Yeah, I see no particular setups on this. Maybe there could be a gap fill to chase if we break this level. If we get back above H4 100 MA, you could have a window to capture a move back to 150. Not particularly interested to short this as it's fighting still in the same region, but if Bitcoin was to break down and this lose this level, maybe you could have an argument to try and chase the H4 trend to the downside. So I guess my main point of view on Kato is, well, I will get back to Sol after that if you want, Kundai. No trade zone in the 1 point, what it is, it's 1.27 up to 1.38, so let's say 135, 135, 125, 135. Potential scalp long aiming for H400 MA retests with trigger equals H4 close above H4 100 MA. Potential short on a breakdown with trigger loss of recent support plus ideally BTC weakness. And I'm gonna set some alerts. Again, I see no setup I can take short term. I set some alerts. I wait for the alerts to trigger, and depending what's happening on Bitcoin. On Kato, please pull up fibs. I'm not using fibs. I'm not gonna put up fibs or something. I'm not using. Sorry, Kundai Pon. And it would be a very good target to get, to be honest. I hate when TradingView does that. I don't know, 0 would be a big. That's probably more likely the kind of setups I would be willing to chase. You wanted me to get back to Sol. Okay, I'm gonna discuss H4 rapidly, and then I can get back to daily. H4, it's simply a small scalp long on a H4 trend retest plus Monday lows. Pretty much the same analysis that I just discussed on Bitcoin before. It's mostly just the confluence of the two. It was either taking this one or trying to scalp long Bitcoin H4. I can't remember where is my H4 chart. Okay, it's on. My bad. I keep messing up with my my list lately. I have too many lists. Yeah, it was mostly just there was a bigger gap to capture on Sol than Bitcoin, so I decided to go for Bitcoin, Sol than Bitcoin, but it's the exact same thought process. On H4, it's the exact same idea than it is for Bitcoin, meaning that you want to see H4 200 EMA and Monday highs broken, in which case we have an argument for H4 300 EMA gap fill, which would be my end target short term. And if we lose H4 trend plus Monday lows, I'm expecting a move back to H4 100 EMA, so that's my invalidation for the long short term. And again, it's the exact same thought process on Bitcoin. We can discuss Solana daily if you want rapidly. If I remember where I charted it, I think it's on Bybit. Okay. This is what I discussed yesterday for Sol. Again, that should probably. I hope that after this stream, you should understand things better, because you probably noticed that it's most often are not the exact same structures and main things discussed, which makes sense. That's why it's called a system. So, yeah. To me, short term, I'm willing to scalp long Solana aiming for some gap fills on H4, but I'm not ready yet to consider a swing long. But I would be interested in trying to capture a move back to the 180s, 170, 180s region, because this is where the daily EMA compression is happening. So that would be a fantastic target to have to the upside. But my trigger would be daily close above daily trend and therefore H4 200 EMA being flipped on H4. Again, something we discussed extensively today. So this is what I said yesterday on stream in the Haven. I said if you're trading Sol, your main focuses are Bitcoin fight for daily trend, downtrend, and H4 200 EMA. Sol fight for daily downtrend and H4 200 EMA. So for Sol, it's basically this region in gray. Previous range low as must hold, obviously. I mean, I hope that it's a level everyone on their charts. I believe it's one of the most obvious level on the Solana charts. And daily EMA confluence in the 70s, 180s as potential upsides for any kind of upside for Solana. So that's my main point of view on Sol. If I have to rephrase it, I would say that I'm willing to scalp long it on short term, aiming for H4 300 MA, and invalidation is H4 trend being lost. But for anything more than this, sorry, I would be waiting for H4 200 MA flip and daily downtrend flip, basically. All right. What EMA are you using for the daily trend? Give me a second. I have a chart ready for that. Where is it? EMA used. So what is it? Okay, we are on crypto. So daily. I am using 13, 25, 32 as the trend. This is what I'm calling trend when I'm referring to my setups. Every time you hear me say trends, this is 13, 25, 32. It doesn't matter if it's 13, 25, 32. You can use 10 and 30. It's the exact same thing. It's just a leftover of the old days of trading against bots on UOB and Binance, but 10 to 13, 10 to 30 does the exact same job. Then I'm using 100 MA. It's the green dotted one you can see, and 200 MA it's the black stairs, and 300 MA the pink one. It's the pink one, and okay, that looks better that way. This is a chart that comes from the Avan Whoop section discussing the gap fill, the EMA compression setups. So Evil Gemini 10 to 30 for the trend, and then 100, 200, 300 MA for the gap fills. Before any question, no, I don't trade crosses. I don't care much about crosses. I'm mostly using moving averages as say, are we above or below for the trend? And are there any gaps to chase in between the main moving averages? Are they stacked or not? But I don't care much about any kind of orders or whatever. EMA compression being one of my most... It's my favorite thing to chase when I'm looking for swings, because it mostly means that the previous trends has fully reset. Strong trend creates obviously mathematically big gaps between moving averages because they move differently depending on the market price, on the price development. When they are all stacked and flattened in the same region, it means that whatever the trend was before, it's fully reset. It doesn't have to play all the way always that way. I showed an example earlier with OM where we had an H4 EMA compression that completely fucked us over. But to me, at least, I'm considering EMA compression as a signal. When I'm seeing these kind of gaps, I know that that's the end for me. I'm not interested to look for big positions anymore. I'm gonna be mostly trying to chase gap fills. But other than that, I'm gonna be waiting. And when we start seeing these kind of compressions, that's the signal for me to be actively looking for swings again. I wanted to check ETH rapidly. Jesus. Okay. What's the next one, guys? We have the choice between BNB and XRP. Which one do you guys want us to take a look at? Are we back to... $240? Could be, but I've been shorting ETH enough, I think. XRP, okay, the people have spoken. That's gonna be XRP. Did I cover the XRP somewhere that it's a cleaner chart than this? We've had a lot of fun with XRP at the end of last year. It's a very good example of the trend following setups that I've been discussing earlier, and what I usually look for when I'm trading strong trends, and what I'm looking for as what I'm looking for as triggers to trade. What you can see here, the ideal trend development, horizontal trend catching up, while stock resetting back from overbought to oversold. If all of these conditions respected, long such as that was an example of that. Do I have a cleaner chart than this? I can't remember if I covered XRP somewhere lately. Do you have stats of win rate, risk reward ratio on your trade using moving averages? One, I would say that I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't say I'm using only moving averages. I'm using moving averages mostly as triggers and targets when there are gaps to chase. But in the end, more than 50% of the system is just horizontal level, support, resistance, flip, and a lot of context. But in any case, I have a fairly high win rate, mostly because I believe that I'm taking not many trades. And the risk reward, as I said earlier, is a little bit more flexible, and it tends to vary a lot. When we were trading, for example, in this kind of context of strong trends, I tend to have very high risk reward. While when we are in a more tight situation with smaller gap fills to chase, if a setup doesn't immediately materialize to my target, the risk reward is getting lower and lower. Let's take this Solana as example Solana long as an example, sorry. As of now, my end target would be H for 300 MA. If this setup, one, is not stopped, and two, takes some time to materialize, meaning that, for example, it consolidates like this up until Friday, for example, H for 300 MA is going to end up in a much smaller situations, much smaller place, and I'm going to end up with a much smaller risk reward. That's why I explained earlier that I calculate my size mostly based on my target one, and my target one is basically most often than not, as you can see here, local highs printed. It's not even a moving average. It's a simple horizontal level. So I would say that my system is extremely dependent on the market conditions and how trendy we are. I would say it's designed to be the most efficient, and me being the most active in the market in high trending conditions, which in the end is probably a small portion of time in the market. Most of the time the market is boring more than being exciting. So I would say for 2 months in the year, I can have a 80% win rate with high risk reward ratio. And then in shittier conditions, in more choppy conditions, not only my stat of win rate is lower, but my risk ratio is probably also lower, and I'm trading on vastly reduced size because my system is mostly made to be aggressive in trending conditions, and in gap fill conditions, I know that I should be trading vastly less and with less size. So if you ask me now compared to December, yeah, it's definitely not the same stats for me. And not only the stats in terms of win risk and win ratio, as you asked, but even in terms of notional amount of money made. I make vastly less amount of money when we are not in heavy trending conditions, which makes perfectly sense for someone that has a EMA momentum based system, basically. I'm not 100% certain I answered fully your question, KKC, but I tried. But my stats are not particularly extremely impressive. I've never claimed to be a chat trader like you can see on CT. I am someone that has managed to survive all this time and has a system that is blindly following because he knows he's too dumb to do otherwise. Okay, so XRP, a bit of a weird chart. My main question for the XRP army is, we know that the SEC thing is over, basically, and that Ripple bribed themselves out of it. What could be the next catalyst? I'm not necessarily saying that XRP would need a catalyst to make a move, obviously, but it's always been some sort of a very heavy narrative catalyst kind of coin. So let's keep that in mind. But even with that being said, I guess there is a fairly clean level on the chart we can all see on the daily chart right now. It's a confluence of that daily 100 MA. As usual, I'm starting when I start looking at charts, I map out the main moving averages. That way they're on the chart. The main horizontal levels. In general, especially if you've been in the Haven or if you watch my streams before, you should know that usually I either see a setup immediately and it's extremely straightforward, And if I don't see a setup immediately, if I don't see something that I'm willing to execute immediately, most often than not, it's a signal for me to not even try to trade it, and that I would be forcing a trade. It's either obvious, either I'm not in, basically. But with that being said, we have the confluence of daily 100 MA local highs that has been denied 2 times already. So I guess this makes for us and for XRP a clean must break / flip support level. Meaning that if you're long, it's probably a good target to have. If you're waiting too long, it's probably a good level to wait to see broken and flipped. In which case, I believe we would have some interesting levels to have as targets. These ones being very clean. These would probably be some interesting target to have to the upside. Daily. This would be the most optimistic scenario. Personally, what I'm seeing, what I would expect more from this chart right now is mostly this again. With the daily trend in the middle and disrespected. So okay, I'm gonna do it that way. This is my main analysis on XRP short term. This is your must holds. This is your must break. This is probably a no trade zone. And above this region, it's probably long territory. I cannot type anymore. I don't know if it takes 2 hours. That's it. That's it. I told you guys after 1 hour and a half, my brain is broken. And here it would be short territory. Aiming for daily 200 MA. And I think that would be my main analysis when it comes down to XRP. Would have a nice target one over here. So what I'm gonna do, as I said earlier, I don't see a clear setup. I map out what I consider to be the main levels of interest. I set some alerts. I wait for them to trigger. Makes sense. Thank you so much. With pleasure, KKC. Good question. Good question. I would add another thing, KKC, is that when I started to take trading more seriously, I tried to have a much more strict approach, and I had a much more strict approach in terms of how many trades I'm willing to take at the same time, a static risk defined per trade, those kind of things. And it helped me for quite some time to be much more disciplined and focused on taking better setups. But over time, I realized that it was after I managed to be more disciplined on my system, then it started to hold me back more than anything. And I guess it makes perfect sense when you consider my approach and you consider the fact that I'm trying to ride trends, and that therefore you need to be more flexible, and you probably need to be you're gonna have period of times where you're gonna have to play much more harder than the rest, and it's probably true for every systems, to be honest. But I guess that for someone like me who try to maximize trending periods, it's even more important. And in those kind of situation, I need to play things much more aggressively and have a less strict approach of certain rules. Maybe it's not the best advice to give to people. Maybe it's just better to try to be as disciplined as possible, have strict rules and stick to them. But my reality of trading is that I realize that over time that the more I trade, the more I leave space for gut feeling, and in that gut feeling part, there is a big over time there is a big part of me bending the rules a little bit that I tend to have in my system, because the context wins over the system sometimes. I don't know if it makes sense. Again, my baguette brain is starting to crack down. Okay, anyway, that's your XRP chart. Again, guys, all of these chart requests will be shared in will be shared in the Telegram channel after the stream, so that you can check them if you want, and you can have access to the charts after the stream. I will share the link to the Telegram again if you want to join. It's just a better feed of my Twitter feed, basically. Okay, and we have BNB to finish, and then we're gonna take a last look at Bitcoin, and I will end the stream. I remember watching BNB yesterday on stream, and I remember saying, fuck it. This is the kind of chat I don't want to touch. I believe it's still pretty much true. I've never had a lot of success trading BNB anyway. It's obviously an heavily manipulated coin, even if that means dog shit. Everything's manipulated. We're talking about things that move depending whether people are buying or selling. So everything is a manipulation. But surprisingly, because it's been a very good coin to trade over the years, but surprisingly, I've always struggled with BNB. Maybe it's because CZ has me blocked on Twitter, and therefore I'm not getting the best updates, but I don't see anything of interest in this chart for me. I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm not saying it looks good. I'm saying that I would get AIDS if I was trying to trade this thing. So yeah, let's just finish the stream by keeping an eye on what's Bitcoin doing on H4 for the next 7 minutes. And if you have any questions for me, we'll finish the stream with that. Stacked 2-hour stream. I don't think we found a lot of actionable setup short term, and it makes perfect sense because, again, we are in a touchy situation on Bitcoin, and whether it defends H4 trend or not likely impacts the rest of the market and how and what you should be trading. But still, I believe that if you wanted to take a deep dive into my system, we discussed a lot of interesting things. I tried to give as many details as possible. If you go check the charts again, if you go check the charts, ENA and those kind of things, I have shared with them detailed reasoning, even if they don't play out, even if in the end it doesn't play out for this thing, for example. I believe that if you spend a little bit of time studying that, at least trying to understand what constitutes for me a good reasoning of things I'm willing to chase, etc., I believe you should have a better understanding of the things I tend to post and discuss. And that's the main goal of these kind of streams, obviously. So that was the main goal of today's stream once again. I hope it helped. If you have any more questions after the stream, you can always tag me on Twitter. I usually don't check DMs much more because they are filled with trash people spam us with. But if, for example, you answer one of my tweets and you ask me a question, I will always take the time to answer. How can I learn your system? Okay, it's the Avan cheating time. I just spent 2 hours discussing the market. I believe I can chill the Avan a little bit. There are 2 places where you can learn my system. If you want to understand a little bit more, again, you have the Telegram channel, which is mostly focused on Bitcoin and daily updates on Bitcoin, discussing some things, but it's not as detailed as I do in the Avan. Otherwise, you have the Avan, which is our paid group, Discord group, call it whatever you want. I don't care much about how people are describing it. It's a place we are with Loma, UB, Krillin, CBS, Main, and all of us are posting daily content. I'm gonna chill it from my perspective before discussing the rest, but personally this gives you an idea of the organization of my content. You have the market analysis for Bitcoin, mostly Bitcoin and SPX. Every day I give the main thoughts, an update on current exposure, the main levels to watch, main scenarios, daily H4, SPX. I try to, at least as long as there is something happening, obviously. I have a trade ID section. This place is more to share plays directly. I use threads on Discord as a tool for me to use trade IDs, signals, call it whatever you want. But I try to only share setups personally that I can use as a educational tool. And yeah, so trade IDs, chat requests, and I do 2 streams per week in the Haven. My next one is gonna be tomorrow. I have not made the setup, the event yet, and you have the exact same thing for each analyst: CVS, Main, Krillin, Loma, and I, and UB obviously. So to me, this is the best place to learn if you're interested in speed running your learning of my system and approach, and or pick from other brains, from other analysts. But yeah, if that's something that can interest you, you can find a link to join on my Twitter page. Otherwise, there is the Avan page, obviously, the Twitter account where you can have access to it. We recently added a new product where you don't have access to the Discord, but you have access to all the educational content we've been publishing through the years. I believe it's more than it's a lot to go through. And it's a discount price compared to the Discord access. And I believe it's also a very good product, especially if you want to deep dive into things more than particularly taking trades or anything. So yeah, could be something that could interest you if that's what you want to do, Ashtushi. But with all that being said, again, if you have any question after the stream, if there are things you want to ask me regarding things we discussed, you can always ask questions on any of my posts, and I will always take the time to answer. So yeah, don't hesitate to do so. And if after all of that you are still interested in joining the Haven, that would be with pleasure to have you around and teach you a couple of things. Alex Pierre, what is your workout stress release regime when you don't drink beer or go to ski? I run every day. I try. I used to try at least. No, but yeah. Mostly running, I guess. But beside that, cheese and wine, to be honest. Cheese and wine, to be honest. Unfortunately, the end of the ski season usually means the beginning of the barbecue season, which is pretty much the opposite in terms of sport activity. But it is how it is. With all that being said, again, last reminder, if you want to have access to all the charts and the details that we discussed today, I'm gonna be pushing all of those links in the Telegram channel, so don't hesitate to check if you want. If you have questions for me, ask me on Twitter. If you want to join the Haven, check my page for the link. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate. The next public stream should be mid-April, so in 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the kind of price action we have. Yeah, again, before finishing the stream, your main focus short-term, Monday lows and H4 trend fights. Monday highs, upside targets, H4 3MA at 89.5, 90. Downside target, H4 100 MA. My main scenario personally, outside of this H4 battle that we discussed, is this main scenario where we have a daily EMA compression, daily 100 MA catching down, daily 300 MA catching up, price stuck in the middle until we have a nice compression to work with. And when we have a nice compression to work with, we'll be looking for new swings. Not new swings, actually, I would be willing to compound on this swing. I have 40% left. Until then, I'm trying not to trade Bitcoin too much outside of potential gaps that I just explained. And yeah, this is the main thing I should say. I think you need to keep in mind for the stream. I believe you have everything you need. So I'm gonna shut the stream off now. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for the chat request and the questions. It was a pleasure as usual. And I will see you guys in Telegram, in Discord for those who are in the Haven, on Twitter for anyone who engage, and on the next stream in April. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.